and I am going to be able to take this game. And then because you've practiced so much versus the best deck in the room, which is what you're targeting, like the Kaisas, the Yi, you're able to hopefully win those games as well and then take it all the way.
Yeah, I know from my experience, Victor tends to be slightly favored just because he's able to get a bit under these decks. Because Sett likes to go super tall, but in the instances that he can't protect those units, there's a decent amount of removal with things like Call of the Week, Hidden Blade. Some Victors are even running Singularity. We saw Singularity make quite the impact against that MF early on. But looks like Sett's on the play, gonna be deploying out that portal to start things off. Let's see how Victor goes. Victor's so good though, of course, because on turn one, you could do a 2 might or a 2 energy unit and the legend ability. That's like the perfect combo there.
Hmm. Yeah, Victor's Legend is pretty powerful in that it lets you use your free runes, your extra runes, for a pretty uh, tangible thing. Like these units, these recruits, give a lot of benefits to the yellow, the order color with the cards like you said, the Call of the Week, with the like the Hidden Blade for draw, like with the Treferian War Camp, they become like a real threat once you've amassed enough of them. So the recruit's definitely not nothing. Pretty powerful. Definitely helps against these tall decks, especially with the Treferian War Camp, where your little recruits just become a giant menace.
Right. Little things do add up in that battlefield. And playing that Kinku Monk doesn't feel too ideal when you only have to buff up one, since Kinku Monk reads other friendly units. So you can't buff yourself for playing it for being played out. So having to just do one buff. Now, speak of the devil, as you said, the Trifarian War Camp going to be buffing up those smaller units up to one each. Make that three each, or one each for the three. So 3 extra might on that War Camp. That's pretty good. Should be enough. And oh my goodness, Victor
Wow.
going off right now. So much might. Let's do the quick maths here. We'll let these players do it for us. 4, 2, 6, 8, 10, 12 total might. Holding it down. The point tempo favoring Sett though. He just has to keep holding that right hand side. So perhaps this could be Victor slightly overextending. Because now, how is he going to ever take the hill lock away?
See, I don't actually hate this. The play I've seen a lot from Victor's is you do stack up on this war camp and it feels really bad to try and contest it. So you just essentially get to put all these units in for free because your opponent doesn't want to contest it. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then once you get right to the point of like turn 3, turn 4, you can retreat most of them back. So you're just leaving one recruit on that on the battlefield, and then you just play a stratagem, and then you take out the entire board essentially. So I
Okay.
don't hate it. It does look like Sett is saying, nope, I am not going to let you build up an army here. I am going to contest. And it does feel bad to trade your unit for just a couple of recruits, but it does slow down that giant army building.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to take the best of both evils. And I know you're not going to conquer the point, but might as well dwindle those sizes down. And interesting thing to note, Victor only had mine runes, so slightly more mine heavy. Usually we're seeing Victors, I've even seen some mono yellow Victors in the past, but Riptide Rex forcing the Sett legend ability to proc here, and that it does, doing 6 damage to a unit at the battlefield. Doesn't have another thing to follow things up, so Riptide Rex gonna be sticking around at that base for a little bit, at least till the next turn. As we said, Sett has the point tempo going up to 3 before Victor goes up to 3. This is why I said it was a little bit of an overextension. If he had a bit of a, maybe some units in the back line, maybe like Captain Vanguard has 3. Yeah, that, I mean, in hindsight's 2020, of course. You had the Riptide Rex. You get the Sett Brawler to go back to base, and then you could push forward with the Vanguard, getting that third point for yourself. So it could have been played out that way, but we'll see. I mean, it's still tough for Sett to get any more points than just that single hold turn after turn after turn. So it's still not super ideal for him either.
Yeah, going to your point about the mind runes, my guess would be that this is the more top heavy control Victor, like you said, that does play the Singularity, plays the Rexes, and doesn't opt for as much early aggression, but just because of how your leader works and the card pool of some of the order cards, you still do get a little bit best of both worlds, where you have that early pressure with the Legion, you have the early pressure with the recruits. You obviously work really well with the War Camp, and then maybe these Hidden Blades or Call the Weeks. But then you do have some of the top end of the blue color, like the Watchers, maybe in this case the Rex, the Singularities, etc.
Yeah, we'll see. It looks like he's Set, at least for now, taking a page out of Victor's book, trying to just slam everything on that battlefield. The only difference, though, and excuse me real quick, the only difference is that that battlefield is hillock, right? So you're able to do ganking over to the Triferian War Camp. If he has a big tall unit in this current moment, he doesn't really have a good unit to send over, but just something he wants to keep in mind going forward. Finally decides to play out this champion, so any non-recruit unit, if it ends up going down, is going to be earning him an extra recruit token. But I think, like you said earlier, I think it's time for him to start retreating some of these units back, preparing for a big grand strategy turn potentially. And what can that really be? Are we thinking perhaps a consult or a hidden blade?
Yeah, that's a good question actually, because I want to say, and I have not looked too much into the Control Victor deck, so I don't actually know how many consults it plays and how many blades it plays. If I had to guess, it would be a blade,
Mm-hmm.
as we have pulled our unit back. So this does give us a little bit of dual purpose, right? Like we're saying, hey, it's okay if you want to send a giant unit with a big commit, I can hidden blade it. If you make like a more moderate commitment where you're going to start trading units, I can hidden blade my own recruit, get some draws. Ooh, we get to see the hand.
Yeah, and there is a hidden blade in hand, so it might have very well been a blade playing out on the war camp. Decides to take out the maybe second hidden blade from hand, so you don't have to deal with that going forward. But Vanguard and the Sentry gets put back to hand, so he knows at least that's what he's working with going forward. Sentry gets played out. If he plays out another unit, we'll get a buff, get things online. I mean, he already had things online for something like a Call to Glory and a hidden blade of his own. Who is he going to be targeting? Did he just try to target Victor? Is units at a battlefield? Hello, guys. What's going on? Kill a unit at a battlefield.
Type in more.
Hopefully.
Hang on. They're probably not paying attention to the Discord, unfortunate.
Yeah. We don't know if this is a higher table, lower table, but interesting plays nonetheless. That Victor should stay alive. Oh,
Yeah, and that's a pretty big change too. That Victor leader,
yeah, that's massive, actually.
that Victor gives a lot of
I
value.
wish I could type to them here because that is a big misstep.
Can he draw on the board? I'm not super familiar with.
I think as a spectator, they just don't see any actions we do because as a true spectator, we're just spectating. We're not interacting with the board or interacting with the game at all.
Well, for anybody watching, this is why you need to know your rulings, because when you go to Houston, when you play at the regional, you do not want this to happen to you, because right here, that could be game losing for the Victor. That is a huge swing.
Yeah, he could have had so much more recruit tokens down the line for those grand stratagems, for those Imperial decrees if he's playing them. So yeah, perhaps there's a bit of a judge call going on. I'll take a look in the Discord if they're coming through. It's hard to do. Yeah, there is. I think it's them. Yeah, I think Soka. Shout out to our judge. He's so good. It looks like he's. Oh no! I think he's dealing with another judge call. Never mind.
Okay, well, Leona gets down. Interesting. Okay, Leona as well. I wonder if this is. Do you know if the more control-y Victor deck does play the Leo, or is this more of a homebrew?
I think this is definitely a bit more of a homebrew because I haven't seen this. It looks like he has Leona in there to tech against Master Yi decks, making it so much easier to conquer when you don't have to deal with those Master Yis directly on that same turn. But it still doesn't look too ideal from this position. 4 to 4 They're talking about it now. So potentially there is a little bit of a judge call. The hidden blade saying kill a unit at a battlefield and the controller draws two. This is a little tricky to remedy because the draw two has already occurred. Okay, they're trying to rewind the board state as best we can. So shout out to our judges being speedy on that. Looks like he was dealing with another judge call.
It shouldn't actually be too hard to rewind because we did get to see the sabotage right before it, right? So
Right.
the hand was known, which that in itself, maybe a bit of a misstep from Sett is if you are going to Killing Blade, let's say that this was a legal play, that the Victor was at a battlefield, you'd probably want to Killing Blade the Victor first, as yellow not going to have a lot of save, right? It's mostly more aggressive cards. The blue might have like a recall, but I really wouldn't expect a recall from like a Victor deck. So
Yeah.
it might be a bit better to use that Hidden Blade before, and then you can sabotage after the draws have happened, right? Because then you get there's no like random cards that he's drawn off the top of the deck. You know every card, and you get to pick the best of the cards post draw.
Uh-oh,
But
look, they're leaving the Leona on the board. So trying to rewind the board set
what
the
in
best
the
they can. But the Leo stays on the board. He doesn't know what to do with that, so puts it back in hand. And this is a whirlwind of a game. Apologies to show you guys this one, but sometimes these games on Tabletop Simulator, I mean, it would end up being played pretty much the exact same IRL either way in these players' hands. The only exception is we have a judge on call, so he helped these players out, try to get back and play the best Riftbound they can. But it looks like a little bit too much damage has been done, but trying to do what they can. So I think now he's going to be able. Oh, no. They gave it back to Sett's turn. So he hasn't even passed, is what's going on.
Yeah, so generally in a scenario like this, you do need to rewind the game state back to where the illegal action was taken and then go ahead and play out from there. It's not always possible. And in those scenarios, I'm not entirely sure what Riftbound has ruled, but at least in other card games I've played, is if an illegal action was taken and it is a small thing that does not give an incredible amount of advantage, it'll just be an accepted game state and you'll continue playing from there. However, if it's like a big thing that is potentially malicious, then
Mm-hmm.
it would be a game loss for whoever did take that action. And
Yeah.
usually it's both players who get the warning because it's both players' responsibility to maintain an acceptable game state. But it does look like they were able to rewind and we were able to continue. So
Yeah, I believe the only thing that was different is I'm pretty sure we'll have to look back in the VOD. He had two cards in hand after that Hidden Blade actually resolved, right? Because he went up to 4, but we'll let it be. We'll let these players ride it out. Riptide Rex going into the Hillock, seeing what damage he can do. 6 to 9 to 10 total should be enough what currently is on the board. If there's something like Call the Glory, could make the map a little bit tricky and able to survive at least with one unit, because right now is 9 to 10.
yeah, no threat of a stratagem. With only 2 runes up here. Sett leader ability is available as well to save a unit. Oh, wow. Okay.
Who is he deciding though? Because I would imagine our Riptide Rex would change the map quite a bit. Now you're coming in with 4 might, only able to get rid of 1 total unit. That's big, and that's why things matter. So ended up kind of saving the Hidden Blade for this exact moment. As the Victor player, you knew he had Hidden Blade in hand. Unless that was the second one. No. Yeah, he had it in hand because he had to put it back.
Yeah, that was known. I will say that isn't generally what you want to use your Killing Blades for, which feels pretty bad. You don't want to give your opponent more cards, especially after you'd sabotage them so that you limited their options. I would say generally after using a sabotage, you're going to want to try to avoid giving them cards as much as possible because that keeps your knowledge of their hand almost perfect, right? Like in this case, He drew and he played the Leona, and we knew the Leona wasn't in the hand, so you knew every card. And that lets you plan out these turns in advance because you can say these are exactly what his options are, and this is how I can win from here. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something that's going to really separate the really top tier players, like we did see Jib play really well in the last game, is their ability to plan out multiple turns in ahead with the knowledge that they have, and then set up these scenarios where it's impossible for them to lose.
Yeah, we'll love to see it. Jeb's doing super well. Hopefully makes it all the way to top 4 so we can see more of his expertise. The Lee Sin center getting played with the Excel. Actually, no, just played directly onto the Hillock. Trying to fortify that position just that much more. You have 2 units still available in that base before you pass things on. Or actually, no, it's on... No, yeah, it is Sett's turn. He just played Lee Sin and tapped everything out. So he's thinking, do I want to try to take a couple more units from this war camp? Even though I have point lead, I have the point tempo so far. Let's see, because he could bait out the hidden blade, and then it makes the math a whole lot easier going forward.
Yeah, the Poro is going to trade pretty well into this here. I would not hate... Oh, wow.
A face breaker. We don't get to see it too often. You stun a friendly and an enemy unit at the same battlefield. So each player, actually you choose for both targets. So he's stunning the Poro and then he's stunning one of the other units. And the math is there. 4 might enough to take care of the 3 might coming in from the Poro. Or the 4 might total with the 1 up from the camp.
Wow, Sett Facebreaker is... Facebreaker and Viktor is not something I've really seen too much. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I've rarely ever seen it. I rarely even seen the card played, period.
Mhm. Yeah, I've seen it a little bit in the Leona deck, obviously, as there are not a lot of sources of stun right now, so you kind of need as many as you can, but ooh, there's the Singularity. Talked about that earlier.
Yeah, big spell. One of the biggest removals Blue has available to him. 6 damage to 2 units. And the biggest thing is you can choose anywhere. Unlike Hidden Blade, where it's only units on battlefield, anywhere on the board, battlefield, base, wherever they may be. Of course, no hand. Except imagine there was a damage to do on hand. That would be completely breaking the game. Either way, deciding targets. So most likely going to be the biggest units on the current board. Lee Sin and the Sett Brawler in that base. Both of them don't have buffs. Oh, that's a way to save it, though.
Okay. Yeah, this does... This, I believe this... Yeah, the Call to Glory is a reaction, so you can respond here. Probably choosing to save the Sett. I guess we will see.
It does get right out of the range. You go up to 7 total might. The only damage was done with 6 total might. 6 total damage from that Singularity, so I'm thinking he might choose to save it. I was just say I don't blame him for saving Lee Sin, since he has to hold that battlefield.
Yeah, and it does get a little weird if you save the Sett, which puts him at 6 counters, right? Because then you just die to a Stupefy, which this does seem to be a bit of a different Viktor build, so you got to play around a bit more than you'd normally would. A lot of times with the more I'm not going to say competitive, but the more like well-known lists, you can kind of tell what your opponent's going to play, and you can determine exactly what they're going to do every turn, and maybe not perfectly, but you have a pretty good idea. Like, I'm playing the Kaisa, I know I have to play around Falling Star, I have to play around Seeker, I have to play around Void Ray. But when you're playing against a homebrew build, that all kind of goes out the window, right? And you have to play around everything available in those colors, because who knows what they might have, which is definitely an advantage in itself. And it's kind of a cool thing about when you do build your own lists.
Yeah, knowledge is power. So knowing exactly what you're up against, what your opponent can have, is so powerful, especially in high intense situations like these games can get to. So I like it. Sometimes homebrews could win strictly off the fact that you can't have your opponent plan for any of your moves. Trying to do the math here, stunned the Lee Sin, so total might left over was the 3 from the first mate and the 3 from the Glory Seeker, it looks like. So wait a second. Why did the Leona and Victor die? Because I think that was 8 total damage or 8 total might they were attacking with. And then the
Yeah,
first mate and the Glory Seeker. Oh, no, no, no. Was that
4-8.
another?
Yeah, there was a first mate and a Glory Seeker, which was 8 might. So it was 9 on Leona's side going into 8 might. And they put 4 damage on Victor, 4 damage on Leona, killing them both as the lead did 0 damage. And then it looked like he used all 9 damage. Actually, why is the Trifarian Glory Seeker in base? Shouldn't that still be on the battlefield if all the damage was put onto the Lee?
I mean, one survived. I'm assuming the first. Oh, the Sett ability. He used the Sett ability to save the Glory Seeker.
Well,
Oh, wait.
how did it die?
Yeah, how
Right?
did the Lee die? Because I thought he was going after. Because Lee had 9 total might there from
Yeah,
the Call to Glory. So this is a
which should
tricky
have been
situation.
full damage. Well,
Yeah, I mean, we're already
yeah.
seeing quite the curious plays already from these players, so we could only expect a little bit more. Peruki does get played on the Glory Seeker, so bringing her back up to 3, and decides to play it directly onto Hillock, but I don't think that 5 might is going to hold Victor from conquering too much more, but Glory Seeker might add a little bit more problems for the Victor. So 5 adding it up to 8. I mean, granted, something like a grand stratagem could be exactly what Victor needs to try to close this margin in point tempo 6 to 7 or 6 to 5. And I think you do have enough for grand, right? 2-4. You would have exactly enough. You have to exhaust everything.
Yeah, someone pointed out the lead did still have 6 damage counters, which totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
A bit too much stuff going on. It did get lost. This is why.
Lost. Usually in person, you would have those dice to represent damage,
Yeah.
of course. Sometimes with the judge call and everything, or I know that happened after the fact, but we definitely missed it. Passing it over back to Victor. Are these little 2 recruit tokens gonna be enough to take down? What is that total math there? 3, 6, plus the 1, 7, plus the 2, 9, plus the 3 up to 12 total might for the Hillock. That would trade. I mean, his only way would be grand stratagem, right? You'd be attacking for 12.
Yeah, you need a stratagem, because you are in a really bad spot here, as you cannot win this turn, and as you did mention, the Hillock does give all the units ganking. So if this does go through, and it passes back to Sett, you just say, I'm moving everything over to the to the war camp.
Yeah, and it gets +1 for each. So now they have the board presence or the battlefield presence. You do have to be cognizant of that hidden blade, but that's going to be taking the bigger creature. At this position, all your might is fairly distributed among all your units, right? So even if one goes, it should be enough because there's only a sentry, a soaring scout, and 1 recruit. Every single one of your units has more might than that. Oh, and it looks like there's no grand strategy and just trying to play the hold the Trifarian War Camp game plan. But this game plan isn't the winning game plan if you ask me, because that goes back to Sett. He goes to 7. He can simply keep putting things on that windswept Hillock. And then if Victor can't take it down, but perhaps he's setting up for the grand strategy the following turn. Both of these players with the hold their own battlefield game plan. Let's see how it ends up playing out, because Victor, if he does have it, he could kind of kind of do a little bit of reverse sweep at the end here.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why all these units were played in the base. Maybe I can't do math, but it does look like even with a hidden blade, this combat should be lost, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And you remove 3, which goes to 10. I guess it would be a draw, wouldn't it? So the hidden blade does force
there is one card in hand if it's a buff, if it's anything that would increase might in this situation. So they're going to be adding the +1s for the war camp. Trying to do the math here. I'll let you do it, NA. No, we'll think
Oh,
about it together. The Hidden Blade is going to be taking the highest might unit, that being the 4 from the Glory Seeker. So total left over is going to be 6, 10, 14 total might. And then how much are you looking to take over? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
yeah. I had missed the Trifarian War Camp. I forgot that those buffs were not given. So yeah, this should just be a straight up win for Sett. It seems like a pretty big misstep to play all these units in your base.
At least one unit, 2 units would have tied things up, and it looks like he's wrapping things up. All the recruit tokens hitting the bin, and that will be GG, the Sett player. A little bit of some funkiness going on, but nonetheless got the job done, and round 4 will be coming to an end.